I'm Marques Brownlee, aka MKBHD, and I make tech videos on YouTube. AMA. Yo. It's been a little while since I did one of these. My name is Marques Brownlee. You might know me from my tech videos on YouTube as MKBHD, for the past 14 years. I'm also a professional ultimate frisbee player, golfer and newly minted car enthusiast. I've also had quite a few crazy experiences since last time we chatted in 2020. I got to collaborate with Sesame Street and I launched my own sneaker. 4 days left to get M here. I got a few hours to hang out. Ask me anything. My proof. Link edit. Alright, I'm heading out now. Thank you all for the questions, this has been really fun. Hit me up on Twitter anytime. Hey Marcus, I don't have a question, just wanted to say hi. You and I being Tommy from the UK, used to speak a fair bit back in like 2009 over Skype. Back when you lived at your parents' with your Acer laptop. You just have been like 14. I still remember you putting out your channel recommendation video for Computer Help Guy 1. Just wanted to say how unreal it is, so see you have done this far and how much I flex that I used to know you. Hope you're doing well, man. Look after yourself, Tommy X. Man, I remember that group of friends. We all did these tutorial videos and screencasts and essentially built the first little tech YouTube community that I was ever a part of. What a throwback. Hope you're well. Linus from LTT just said they received a $100 million offer for their company, which they declined. So I'm just curious if you've ever received a buyout offer, and what your feelings are towards YouTubers selling their channels and associated assets. Never received one, and would never take one. Please resurface this comment in the event that I ever even consider it. How have your opinions on Elon Musk changed? I still feel like I do a pretty solid job in my head of separating business leaders from products. The same way I separate an NBA player from their Twitter comments. Respect for the thing they're good at, and ignoring the rest. Because that's how ideally I'd like people to treat me. Respect for the content, and the rest is unrelated. But it is tough because I know not everybody thinks that way. I've only met Elon once and it was fun to pick his brain in the Tesla factory and hang out and talk about gear and EVs. Clearly a lot has happened since then, but honestly my opinions haven't changed. He's still a ruthless businessman with a focus on product and efficiency, just like he was however many years ago when I first picked his brain. Lol, I saw a video today of him saying working from home is immoral because other people don't have the privilege of doing so. Like, okay Elon, I don't have the privilege of having millions of dollars from an emerald mine, where's my money? The guy is a dumbass. Terrible take. He is inextricably linked to his opinions. He is doing so much harm to society as a whole, and the fact that you don't have the balls to stand up and call bullshit out is pathetic. This makes me view you in a completely different light. Awful. You're not wrong, but if you expected a YouTube tech business person to take any kind of moral stand on something that might have even the slimmest chance of negatively impacting their personal profitability, I have bridge to sell you. Linus calls him out all the time. He's still a ruthless businessman with a focus on product and efficiency. I'd say something has changed here since just recently he stated that he now prioritizes voicing controversial political opinions above the success of his company. It's only a cop-out cause you don't like the answer. He's not wrong. You can still admire someone for their capabilities while not liking who they are as a person. But most people can't accept gray, it's black or white. Slite. He gave a honest answer. He's not here to share any inner deep thoughts or hot takes. The problem is that people like MKBHD are some of the biggest enablers of Musk. Musk ran a referral program for influencers where they could earn a free roadster if they referred 50+ people to buy a Tesla. MKBHD was one of them who won it. That inherently introduces a conflict of interest between the products they review versus the financial incentives. Lost all respect towards MKBHD when that was disclosed and when he was actively creating content to undermine other EV competitors like Mach-E. He answered, but IDK if a separate the art from the artist argument is exactly redeeming in this case. MKBHD is more syllables than your first and last names combined. Why do people call you MKBHD? Easier to spell. When is the new Xperia video coming? Fearnet. Isn't it harsh to change phone constantly? Have you ever lost any data while doing a transfer? Man, I've gotten so good at switching phones. Like, I have it down to a science. You could hand me a new phone in the box and I could completely move everything in within probably 2 hours. Signed into everything, already starting to test stuff, take pictures, emails, etc. I've never had anything go completely sideways and lose data, knock wood. But yeah, that's a skill I developed with this job for sure. You need to make a video about his. I bet people would love to get some tips about switching to a new phone. Are you a part of Bidet Gang? I am not. But there are some card-carrying members at the studio. Can confirm. We're trying to start a movement. I thought bidets were for after a movement. How can I argue with that username? MKBHD walking around with a poopy butt confirmed. Why Frisbee? I went to the high school that founded Ultimate Frisbee in 1968 in Maplewood, NJ. So it was just as accessible of a sport as any other. Loved it the second I started playing 16 years ago. Plus it's gotta be the most highlight-friendly sport of all time. The one and only, and SZA. With Linus' recent announcement it got me thinking about you, my other Fab Tech YouTuber, and how your businesses differ. You're also super involved with your brand but it feels less corporate-esque. What's the future of the MKBHD brand and do you predict a time when you might have to pass on the day-to-day operations to a CEO you hire? I watched that video and honestly resonated with a lot of it. Obviously Linus's production company's scale is absolutely gigantic and the style is more assembly line that cranks out videos. But the start we both had is similar. Small group interested in making videos grows into large group. Our job goes from creative person making videos with a team to manager of a team. There's no textbook or blueprint for how to move forward with this stuff. But my move has always been to do what makes the most sense. There's a world where sometime in the future I need to consider a CEO that isn't myself. So I can keep the focus on making videos. What's it like to be a professional athlete while also owning a business in a completely different field? What do you think of Ultimate Frisbee as a sport and what does its future look like? I kinda love the separation. It feels like I get to flip a switch between the creative half and the ruthlessly competitive half of my brain. Ultimate is still a young sport. But as I said in another thread, it's gotta be the most underrated, highlight-friendly sport I've ever seen. So as it slowly gets more money and production qualities go up and it gets exposed to bigger audiences, the sky's the limit. Let's get it on ESPN right before the NBA game of the night. What is the wildest review offer, request you ever gotten? I'm gonna have to go with the casket, that I still have, link. How big is your team? Do you outsource IT-related staff like websites and annual best camera voting? So the team is currently exactly me 13. Me studio manager assistant studio manager writing, Resurrect, script supervisor podcast producer audio wizard editor graphic designer motion graphic designer cinematography, creative director cinematography, art director studio channel head camera, studio channel editor head of business for other larger projects. We've worked with outside companies. The blind smartphone camera test website is a good example of one, where we worked with one developer to build that whole thing over the course of several weeks. You've reviewed a ton of products over the years. Are there any that never got an update you'd love to see a refresh for? The Tesla Roadster. What's the stupidest advice you ever gotten? I remember once Gary Vee insisted me that I should be focusing on Facebook video because it was about to pop off. Good times. How on earth did your production quality get so high? Practice makes perfect, my friend. Have you ever done any coding? So I started college with an information systems major, which had a coding class my freshman year. But I did switch to business technology after that year, so haven't done any coding since then. You chose the MKBHD name at a very young age. Would you choose a different name if that was today? If so, what would it be? Honestly, wouldn't change a thing. I originally picked it because I needed to start a Twitter account and Marques Brownlee is too hard to spell to say out loud to tell people where to find me. I just needed something a bit shorter and easier to remember, and thankfully it was available. How do you deal with companies who express dislike of your reviews? Ever had any experience? Also, what's your fave color for an Ultimate disc? Okay, the easy part. Ultimate players only play with white plastic discs, ha. But yeah, there's been companies who dislike things I say all the time. Sometimes they're silent. I haven't heard from Dyson in a flea, and sometimes they reach out. I won't name names, but some have had completely inappropriate responses asking me to delete things, etc. Never done that. My favorite is actually just when the next generation version of the device I reviewed comes out and they get to point to the thing that they fixed and are eager for me to compare it to the thing I hated last year. What is the biggest threat you see to tech content reviews on YouTube? The shrinking attention span of the average human. Pineapple on pizza? No. Unsubbed. Your reflecting on the color of my skin video was truly brilliant. Do you feel things have changed for the better over the past 3 years? First off, thanks for making the best tech videos on the platform. The content is amazing. For my question, what is the average budget for a video on the MKBHD channel? And how much time goes into recording and editing? Thanks. For a typical MKBHD video, say a smartphone review, 15% of the time is testing, resurrecting 15% of the time is writing, 30% of the time is shooting, and 40% of the time is editing. So individual videos have wildly varying budgets. Obviously, if we buy the device we review, there's that. And there's the overhead of everyone who works at the studio who may contribute to any individual video. But beyond that, it's a huge range. Sometimes it's $0. Sometimes it's 6 cross-country flights and hotels and some extra gear just to make one Starline video at Google I/O. Have you thought of doing more with Dr. Mike in healthcare tech? Actually, yes. I'm literally about to DM him to ask him to come back to the studio so we can do a podcast on all the gimmicks versus features in the tech we use every day. Thank you for permanently altering my music tastes ever since middle school. Lol. What's your favorite album of all time? Random Access Memories by Daft Punk. The Incredible True Story by Logic. Tetra by C2C. How good do you think Victor Wembanyama would be at Ultimate Frisbee? Okay, so low-key we have this discussion a lot. How good would other professional athletes be at Ultimate, and how long would it take them to be the best players in the world? It we're just talking Victor. Honestly, I don't know if somebody that tall, long has the cardio stamina to play any sort of defense. They'd be a menace on offense because nobody's catching anything over them. But can NBA players really run 60-yard routes back and forth for 2 minutes at a time for a defensive possession? I'm thinking soccer or football players would translate better. But hey Victor, if you're reading this and want to play Ultimate, I heard we have a roster spot open on Empire. Hey Marcus. What scares you the most about the future of tech? Pretty much nothing. Up until the recent comment from Sundar Pichai about how we don't even know everything this AI tech is capable of. The reason that hits so hard is with pretty much every other piece of tech, we get this long, predictable curve of seeing it get better over time. It starts off expensive and for the early adopters, and it slowly gets better and better until it reaches the inflection point of being good enough and cheap enough that the masses can get use out of it. AI just feels like it skipped a few steps. The curve is very different. It's a little frightening sometimes. How do you avoid burnout? Being a creator is like running on an infinite treadmill. If you turn up the speed too high and try to make too much stuff too often, you'll burn out. But oddly enough, I've also found that if you turn the speed too slow, it feels clumsy and anxious, and I feel like I want to be doing more. So it's been all about finding the Goldilocks zone speed on the treadmill and getting help with the things that make it feel like a lot of work. Is there a Mrs. MKBHD? I guess he's very private about his romantic life, and more power to him. But I sometimes wonder if he has like 5 kids running around at home, and a partner going apeshit at him for buying another EV. What's your net worth? I honestly have no idea. Not even joking. Lucky for me, my mom worked in banking and now runs the financial accounting for the whole operation, so I don't have to pay as much attention to that stuff. Howdy Marcus. Been watching your content for years now and I've always wanted to ask this question. If all your hair was replaced with cheese, what cheese would you want it to be and why? Hope all is well, keep up the good work. I don't even know how to. What made you? Mozzarella. Why did you stop putting Cheerios in the background? You did it for your OnePlus video but not any others, it was a classic. The Cheerios were originally put in the background of video for the first time about 12 years ago to cover the microwave behind me in my dorm room that was flickering because of the shutter speed of the camera. So it hasn't been necessary since then, but it still shows up now and then for fun. I kept the original box. If you had to have a gas car, which one would it be? Okay, that's a really interesting question. I've actually really loved a lot of gas cars and hybrids over the years. But I have one problem. The Plaid Model S has ruined my perception of fast. To be perfectly honest, I've considered 911 Turbo many times over the past few years, but a really messed up problem I have is paying that much more for a car that will feel slower. It's a terribly unrelatable problem, huh? But probably a 911. Who's the biggest celebrity on your contact list? Mr. Beast probably. What's the video you are most proud of? Still, my favorite video ever was interviewing Kobe. It's not my best video, not by a mile. But it opened so many doors for me and blew the doors off my imagination for what I could do in the video world. I try to do the same now for as many other creators as I can. Where else would you live in the US, world besides Jersey? I've always said there's only 2 places I could reasonably live with the way this job works. Almost every tech event is either in the NYC area or California Bay Area. If I didn't live near one of those places, I'd have to be on a plane twice as much. Damn, I did not know you played golf. What's your handicap? I've played golf since I was 10 years old. Played much more often in the youth golf scene in NJ and had a single-digit handicap before going off to college and focusing on ultimate frisbee. But I'm getting way more back into golf these days because guess what? Ultimate is hard on the body and is definitely not a forever sport, huh? My current handicap, according to 18 birdies, is a 7.6. Hi Marcus, I always wondered, have you ever considered to expand the channel to reach different languages audiences as big as the Spanish tech community, for example? Yes. Recently we started including dubbed versions of audio tracks for videos in new languages. Started with Spanish because it's the second most common language spoken by MKBHD viewers. And the way it works is actually pretty slick. If you live in the right region, and you pull up an MKBHD video, it's automatically subtitled and subbed and you'll a Spanish voice throughout the video. It's not cheap to pay for these services, but hopefully this helps the video be more accessible. I'm going to see you play Frisbee in 2 weeks, MTL. Will you sign my iPhone with a permanent marker? I got you. How do you know when an idea is great? Is it after shooting or before? I feel like I have probably a 70% accuracy rate of being able to accurately predict how well a video will perform. Honestly, the main factor I use is, would I click this? And would I enjoy watching this? Because that's how I decide what to make in the first place. Then there's plenty of little nuances with the hook, first few seconds, the devices featured in the video, the format, storytelling, etc. Favorite hexadecimal color? 00000. Did you have any idols? Or do you still have any? Just my dad.